Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Saturday, September 17th, 2016. My name is Rich, and here to cover the Vegas finale with me, finally. Sorry it's late this week, guys. It is Bijan. How you making out?
Doing good, man. Oh, what a great episode.
Yeah, it was amazing. I managed to spoil it for myself because I'm an idiot and didn't just leave it till I got back. I had to get as much as I could, so I ended up watching the Stage 3 runs before the Stage 2, but it was still awesome.
Yeah, it was still fun times, I'd imagine, even if you start off with the third stage. I don't know why you did that, Bridge. Killing me. Stupid. Anyway, it was still cool because I didn't know where everybody had gone out, so I got to see that part. Yeah.
I just couldn't wait. I just couldn't wait to get back. I'm sitting in Vegas, just looking out my window, looking at the place where it actually happened. My TV's right there. How am I supposed to not turn it on?
Yeah, so we'll keep this short, but for everybody, we want to apologize for it being a little bit late this week. Rich was in Vegas doing some work stuff, and I was a little bit busy this week doing some work stuff as well. We both been busy, man. Had some, at least I was on the news. I don't know, you were doing some crazy conference over there, so we've both been schmoozing it up, you know?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy conference for sure. Vegas, of course. But yeah, give us a brief overview, because you kind of told me a little bit about it, but like, what was going on with you in the news? Because I wasn't in the news. I was just schmoozing at the conference.
Well, it's not anything serious, but yeah, we had the North Park open house. It's for my library. We have this giant event where city leaders, council members, we had former mayor of San Diego, Todd Gloria there, and Susan Davis's representatives, and a bunch of big, like, high up people, like deputy director of the entire library system there. And I was the host of the entire event. I do a lot of public speaking for people that don't know, so it was cool. I looked all fancy up on stage, and I can't even say it right. Schmooze the crowd, and I made some good times.
Awesome. So let's get into it. I know everybody's tuning in to hear what we thought of the finals.
They want to hear about how awesome I am at picking people to win this show. Yes, I'm not letting you. I'm not letting you ignore that, bro.
All right, so which one are we going to start? Well, let's start with the whole Team Rich versus Team Bijan.
Because there's so much, right? All right, guys, I'll keep this short. But not only did my number 2 pick come in second place, just like I said, my number 1 pick came in first place on this show all the way. Plus, at the very start of this entire season, even before they recorded it, we went on ANW8 and gave our picks for our fantasy league. And guess who's at number 1 in the fantasy league this season? None other than Bijan. Oh, yeah.
That was awesome, man. I have to say, congratulations on winning that. So, did he already reach out to you about the prize money? Like, he won a prize money for that, too.
It was nice. But, huge thank you to Travis McClure. Awesome guy. Thank you for everything involved with this whole league, and it was really, really fun. I really can't wait for doing it again, man. It was cool. And Rich, got to get on my level, bro.
Yeah, I think, you know what, for the podcast, I think we did pretty damn well. Like, we got first, and if you look at it, I tied for 5th place. It was pretty cool. Like, of like 150 people or so that were in this, I think we both did pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm. And I strongly suggest everybody go to ANW8 do the fantasy league next season. It's really, really fun, and it's very quick and easy to do. Sign up for. It doesn't cost any money, and it's super easy. Super, super fun. I actually thoroughly enjoyed watching the rankings every single week.
Yeah, it's because you're sitting at the top every week. No wonder.
Well, even if I wasn't, it was fun.
Yeah, I like it. He's looking to revise the scoring system, which I think is something we should take a look at as well. Maybe even have Travis on the show. It would be interesting to see what kind of ideas he had for changing it up, because it is a little strange in ways, right? Because you make it all the way to Vegas and do pretty well and not get any points whatsoever because you have to complete the qualifier, complete the city finals. Like, nobody from Philly got any points for the finals, even like Wilczewski and Joe, who hit made it all the way to the invisible ladder. They did the best for that city, and they didn't even get any points. So I'm hoping that's something that can change along the way.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like 5th place sour grapes over there, but
A little bit. A little bit, maybe.
Nah.
I picked a couple people from that city, so that didn't help me any. And really, I looked at the differences between our teams, and really what ended up biting me in the end. And he did awesome. I'm not complaining. Nicholas Coolidge basically didn't do as well as Brian Arnold in the end.
I have a lot to say about Nicholas Coolidge when we get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even want to... Let's start this, man. Let's get into this. The show was great, but man, there is some stuff to talk about.
All right, so show starts off with a compilation of the ninjas as kids. I thought that was a really funny, weird way to kick it off.
No, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, man. It was very creative, and it brought a sense of... a lot of people kind of put all these ninjas on a pedestal, which they deserve, of course, but it really humanizes them. It brings them down to a level for a lot of the family members and a lot of the kids watching at home to recognize, being like, oh yeah, they were in the same kind of situation as me, wanting to be, these larger than life athletes in their future. And it makes, I think, for a younger audience, really confident in trying new things. So I actually really, really enjoyed that.
I hadn't thought of that. That's actually a really great way of looking at it, right? It's inspiring to the kids that, hey, I can do this too. Look, they were kids like me. Yeah, like it.
Hey, Jesse Graff was a kid once. Crazy.
So if we take a look at the actual course, so stage 2, we had the giant ring swing. Now, they called it the double salmon ladder and the down-up salmon ladder. I'm not sure which one. I'll call it down-up because it makes it more sense.
Down-up's better,
yeah. The wave runner, butterfly wall, double wedge, and the wall flip.
So 2 things. That butterfly wall was one of the obstacles last season where I said it was very cheap. They didn't have a springboard or anything. And I was like, what about people that have shorter legs that can't jump that distance? It's weird that they had that. I am so incredibly happy that they added that small little thing with that small little spring trampoline, because it really made a difference for people that might not have the advantage of being able to jump far. So I appreciated that a lot. Plus the wall lift, I really liked, because is it called the wall lift? Was it?
It's the wall flip now.
Wall flip, okay, because wall lift I think was the previous one.
Yeah.
So in Sasuke, I don't know if they really had it in American Ninja Warrior, but in Sasuke, it was kind of elevated a little bit, and they had competitors kind of just like lifting up a little bit and then like crawling underneath. So I think this wall flip is a good way of circumventing that in many aspects. So I actually thoroughly enjoyed both editions.
Yep, you summed it up perfectly. That was everything I wanted to say. So the added trampoline was great, and I think the wall flip is way better than the wall lift. So yep. Mm-hmm. Definitely positive changes. We already kind of covered the other obstacles previously, so we're going to get into the actual runs. We had Michael Torres, the guy who just barely made it. He just within 0.08 seconds had barely made it to stage 2. And what a great introduction to the course. He got hung up on the rings and just over and over and over and ended up falling on the rings eventually.
Yeah, it looked like he really couldn't figure out how to, center his body in the swing for these rings. And I don't know. It's hard to watch after a certain while, right? After the 30-second mark and they're still on it. You're like, oh boy, this is brutal. This is hard to watch at this point.
Yeah, I feel bad for him, but it definitely was a good way to show how difficult the rings are, and we know they run in the order that they finished, right? So he actually would be the first one to go. So it's interesting to see that right off the bat, they were going to struggle with that obstacle.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know. I like this overall second stage just because primarily the first obstacle in the second stage, while not easy, previous seasons, other than the rope jungle, which I actually really enjoyed as well, it was kind of like just an easy transition obstacle. The rope jungle and this ring swing or whatever it's called, really great additions. It really makes you think, and those are obstacles I really like. I love the fact that you had to really think about what you were doing with it.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought the ring swing itself from the city course was great, and this amped up version was great. I actually thought it was going to be impossible just looking from at last week's Crashing the Course, but I should never underestimate them.
Nope.
So after Michael Torres, we had Najee Richardson, the Flying Phoenix. I didn't realize this was his second year. I thought he was a rookie. He fell in his rookie year.
Yeah, that was interesting, but there's so many ninjas that, kind of come and go that you really just don't put in your overall memory because there's just so much being blasted at you. So you kind of fell through the cracks. But honestly, I appreciate that because this is a better introduction for him. Even though it's the second year, it's kind of like Jeff Britton, where the first season you're kind of overlooked, and the second season you really come out to show just truly what you're capable of.
Yeah, he was very memorable this year, for sure. He did really well on the rings, which it seemed pretty obvious he would with his gymnastics background. But he fell in the double salmon. I actually didn't think he was going to fall there at all. I really was surprised, especially maybe going down, but not on the upswing.
Yeah, I'm still very confident in what this guy can do in upcoming seasons. I think give him a year or maybe two when he can really just fully get completely relaxed with all the new obstacles. I think this guy athletically has all the tools to like just do every obstacle super easily. One thing that we haven't seen him fully tested on that's going to be the only question mark is how he'll do when it comes to straight up grip strength rock climbing obstacles. We still haven't seen him, and this double salmon ladder kind of gives me a little pause in I guess promoting him too much in that accolade. But if he can get his grip strength on point, and you know he can because he does gymnastics, I mean, that's pretty brutal on your grip strength as well. I think he can do really, really well in this entire type of sport.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. I think we'll be seeing a lot more of him. He seemed to take his failure last year and channel it into like increased training and everything, and I think he'll just keep doing that. It seems like he's got the intensity and the drive to keep going. So, and he's so good. I don't think I'll ever forget him flying over that wall. Like a good couple feet over that wall was awesome.
Yeah. We need to see him versus Flip on that warped wall, so you can run up it like the highest.
What I really want to see is a flying shelf grab competition between him and Drew, just to see who can go further.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
But anyway, moving on, we had Ethan Swanson. That was the crazy roof jump guy. He got fast forwarded. He had fallen on the down up salmon ladder. So yeah. It would suck to get to stage 2 and actually in such a small field and get fast forwarded. But I mean, there is only limited time. I'm not sure who I would take out to replace him.
It would suck to be Nicholas Coleridge on this entire season, but we'll get to that.
Yeah,
just dropping a little hint.
Yeah, incoming rant for that one for sure. But next was Adam Rail, the concrete barber, which I still think is a cool title. He was living on PB&J for 2 weeks in the walk-on line. Like, oh my god,
that's brutal.
Like, how do they compete? How does a walk-on live in those conditions for weeks on end and then compete on this show? It doesn't even make sense.
I don't know, man. Sheer perseverance or something, because your muscles must be fatigued at that point. Not even fatigued. I don't even know. Just drained, like, by not having the proper diet, and nutrition going into it. I feel like we need to interview on during the off season, like somebody that's actually been in the walk-on line and just see like what goes on through all those competitors' heads, especially somebody that doesn't even get to try to compete. I mean, what a emotional blow. I really feel for those guys. I don't really know a good way of fixing that, because I understand NBC's point of we can only have so many people, but at the same time, I feel really bad for the guys that don't even make it from the walk-on line. Yeah.
I think they just need to cut it off earlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would make sense. Actually, I agree with that.
But anyway, so Adam actually did pretty well. He made it to the wave runner before his grip just gave out, unfortunately.
That wave runner, man, it was a lot harder than that was the one obstacle. I'm like, it looks difficult, but I could see people getting past it. That thing was a beast at the early part of this.
Yeah, the awkward shape of it and trying to balance it. It was interesting. It was definitely, I think it was a good step up from the unstable bridge. Yeah. Similar, but not quite the same.
Oh, big time.
Next was the unofficial Rookie of the Year here, Josh Levin. He was the only finisher in LA, to remind everybody. Not that I think they need reminding at this point because he's done so well. So his coach, Stacy, had missed his stage 1 run, but she got to watch him run stage 2 via FaceTime, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it was sweet. I really like this guy. I mean, we've sung his praises enough, but this guy really came out to play this season, and he's so young that I really see in like 2 years, he might be somebody that can actually win the whole show, do the whole shebang. And yeah, I hope he stays committed to the show. I know he's got a lot of things outside of American Ninja Warrior in his life, but he has a big shot of becoming a millionaire on this show.
One thing they mentioned on his run is he was doing the salmon ladder, and they said there was no minimum number of rungs for him to go up as long as he could reach the bar. And I started thinking, well, that's great. They don't have any BS rules in place that they can just, if you can make it through, that's great. And this is before the flip incident, which, oh my God, I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was cool that they didn't have a minimum number of rungs. They could just get off the obstacle as soon as they could.
With that said, the peg that they grab onto is like super high. I mean, you pretty much have to get to the very top or the penultimate peg before you can reach to it.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean why does it doesn't need a BS rule, right? You just if you can reach it, then you can reach it. That's great.
Yeah, I like that.
So he beat the Wave Runner and then fell on his lache in the middle of the double wedge. He just lost his grip. By the looks of it, it was kind of odd.
Well, that double wedge, man, it's a beast.
It is, and he was your third pick, and I just kind of realized, I think he got the furthest. I think he actually got the third furthest if you look at where he fell.
Really? So all my picks were correct, huh?
I think you nailed it like perfectly.
Wow. I really didn't. I just figured somebody got farther than him, but that's pretty awesome. Okay. Go me.
And after Josh, we actually had the ultimate bromance. We had Grant McCartney and then Neil Craver. I love the little package of the two of them. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's always super fun. I like these guys.
Grant's a big guy, as you mentioned before, 6'2", 190 pounds. I did not think he was going to get through that giant ring swing the way he was going sideways. And then he managed to jump the ring across, even though he was like, the way his body was going sideways at the time he flung it. I thought for sure he was going to miss it altogether, but he did.
Yeah.
But what I'd like, if you watch back, as he's doing he ends up falling on the salmon ladder, and he wasn't sure what happened, and I don't think they even really called it. If you look, there's like a counterweight on the bar of some kind, like it's just a little weight. It swings into view as he's going up, and he looks at it. I think he got distracted by this thing swinging into his view line as he was going up.
That's a good point. But at the same time, like, all the competitors know about the counterweight. It's not something that's new or been introduced. But
if you watch his and watch everybody else's, I don't know what happened, that if it came out of some pulley system that is normally on or what. They don't normally come directly in front of them like that. His came swinging right into his face.
Oh, I mean, those are the breaks, man. I don't know. It's unfortunate circumstances. I think what played more of a part to it is just the fact that he spent so much time on that ring swing that, his grip strength with his size and everything must have really drained a lot of his grip strength. So when he did the descent, it drains a lot. But when you start to go to that ascension and that swing, it's really, really a lot of impact and force on your fingers. And I think that might have played a big part in it as well.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Like you said, big guy, and he definitely was struggling. And next we had Neil Craver. So he's failed on the salmon ladder the last 2 years. So this time he was actually able to go further, thankfully. He's so entertaining to watch. I love watching that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times we can say that, I guess, but even his fall was entertaining. He did a backflip off the Wave Runner. His grip just seemed to give out. It seemed like the transition seemed to test their grip, because that seemed to be where they were when they went out on the Wave Runner. That's where it failed them.
Well, it seems to be a mix of, when you look at the first 3 obstacles, they're all grip strength intensive, back to back to back. And you really don't get much of a break other than that small little peg right before, like the foot pegs before the salmon ladder. And when you're in that moment, the transition just between the first and the second obstacle, I imagine a lot of the athletes feel like they can't spend too much time resting their fingers. So I have a feeling none of the competitors are giving enough time to rest their fingers between these 3 challenging obstacles that take so much force and impact on your fingers. So by the time you get to the Wave Runner, it's fully strained completely. And for somebody like Neil Craver, who has a history of suspect grip strength, and I say that leisurely, like, don't get offended, guys, but,
Wow. That was kind of harsh.
yeah, but, the obstacles that he fails on are all grip strength based, right? So somebody that has a history of having trouble with grip strength obstacles, I feel like it might have been too much for him.
Could be. But he's been pretty solid, really, overall. That's 3 years in a row at stage 2.
Oh, he's great. His strengths are predominantly based on stage 1.
Okay, and moving on to the first rant of the night, I think. Flip Rodriguez. He had fast-forwarded, kind of, sort of. They said that he failed because he didn't use the second board of the Wave Runner. He just touched it. Do you want to? Are you actually cool with this? Let's start with that.
I don't know. I'm kind of cool with it. I'm curious about this rant, man. You go ahead. Floor is yours.
All right. So I hate any kind of, it's the hourglass drop all over again, for one. Now, I will grant you that they do go over the rules, but to me it looked like he was just trying to circumvent that in a way that probably wasn't very clear. So they were probably told they had to use the second board, and he thought that if he touched it as he was going, that would count. And I would argue that Drew, which we will see later, did exactly the same. There was very, very, very little difference between their two transitions there. And I'm not saying that I think that Drew should have been disqualified. I don't think either one of them should have been. I think it was like they didn't even learn the lesson from before, how stupid rules like that make it. If you can lâcher from that far back, you should be allowed to bloody well do it.
Okay, well, let me give you the counter argument, which is, first of all, we don't know what the rule set particularly was, but it sounds like they have to use the second peg or part of the obstacle, which makes sense because they're trying to make it challenging, and anybody that sees it obviously sees that the second part is clearly the more difficult part. It's kind of like what's the obstacle that this replaced? The bridge one? Broken bridge?
Or floating boards?
Floating boards. So it'd be kind of like if I didn't want to do...
Sorry, unstable bridge.
Unstable bridge, that's right. So it'd be like, you go to the first unstable bridge where it's got the 4, metal chains, and then you're looking at the 2 metal chained one that can spin. And you're like, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to lâcher past it and never touch it. So I can understand why they have that rule, right? Where you have to grab onto the second one because that's where the difficulty comes from. I guess the difference between Flip and Drew was pronounced by the fact, and they made it clear, which I think is fair by the producers, because they did clarify what happened, where Flip tried to, and I think this is where the difference is. I think Flip had an understanding and he tried to touch the second board, but he just didn't get his hands up quick enough to it, because he kind of lâchered forwards a little too much, whereas Drew kind of lâchered a little bit more upwards and forward, where he was able to fully place his hands around the top part and then get to the end of the peg. If you see Drew's lâcher, he barely gets to the end of the landing, right? Because he kind of lâchered more upwards, whereas Flip clearly made it all the way to the landing pad because he lâchered completely forward and he didn't get enough momentum upwards to grab onto it. So I think that's where the difference is, and I think it's a big, big gamble for the competitors to try, but I understand both parts of it.
To me, it's just bad design. If it's skippable like that, it should be skippable. So if you're worried about people just lâchering from back there, the landing pad should be up higher, so they have to basically... like further out or higher up, however you want to do it, so that they actually have to grab onto the second board to get to where they need to go. Like, don't cover it with rules. Anywhere you can adjust the actual obstacle so that they can be inventive, so they can, stretch themselves and do different things in different ways. Like, it's way more entertaining when they don't do everything exactly the way it's supposed to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree to a degree, right? Like, I understand both sides. I understand that you want to give everybody the freedom to be creative on these obstacles, but at the same time, I also understand the fact that the producers want to add some sensibility of difficulty to the obstacle. I do agree, though, that they can make some adjustments where they can have the rule set a little bit more vague to the competitors. So I understand both sides of it.
Yeah. I think the salmon ladder rule is a perfect example. Like you said, you pretty much have to get to the top to reach that bar. Don't dictate what peg, so that if someone's able to do it from lower, if you get John Alexis Jr. in there and he can reach it from the bottom, it's something crazy like that, then just let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we'll move on. Chris Wilczewski. They gave him some movement lab love. That was great. I loved it.
That was awesome, man. I was not expecting that, because this show's been really weird with how they've been covering Chris Wilczewski. And I'm glad that they're really promoting him in his gym, because that really is his life. And this dude does deserve to get that recognition. I will say this, Wilczewski's firmly cemented himself, if he hasn't already, but he really clearly cemented himself as one of the higher echelon competitors in the entire sport with this season.
Yeah, Chris is awesome. I'm glad to see National Ninja League back. And actually, I was wrong. I just realized, because he actually did go further. He had a good transition. He made it all the way to the wedge, and he just fell when the left went a little too far forward. So I think he did actually go further than Josh Levin.
Let's roll back the tape. I like the whole feeling of, me being... it's all semantics. It's whatever.
Next we had Joe Moravsky, who they didn't focus on this enough. They kind of mention it offhand when we see who's moving on to stage 3. I knew he was impressive for making it to stage 3 multiple times. I didn't realize how impressive that was. He's the only person to do it.
Yeah.
At this point.
He's the only guy that's always made it to stage 3. Like, he's never missed a stage 3, right?
Yeah, he had done it 3 times.
Yeah, I was thoroughly shocked when he fell, because I was certain he was going to make it to stage 3. Like, when we did our picks last week, when you said Joe Moravsky, in my head, I was like, how did I not pick Joe Moravsky? Oh, geez. So,
exactly.
I was shocked.
My brain can't process the fact that Joe's been there 3 times. If you don't count this season, he had been there 3 times, and nobody else had been there even 2. Did you realize that?
Oh, that's a really interesting fact.
They didn't stress it enough here, because when they mentioned about Drew going to stage 3, they said he's only one of 2 competitors to ever go there more than once. Well, Joe went there 3 times in a row, and nobody else had gone a second time. I even went back and checked that. Mm-hmm. So Brian Arnold, Brent Stephenson, Elliot Hall, James McGrath, Flip Rodriguez, all these names that we know and have all done stage 3, only all ever attempted it once. That's crazy.
Well, he's Mr. Consistency, but this year, man.
Yeah, he still did well this year, but he didn't do as well as he has, unfortunately. He did go out on the wave runner this time.
Yeah. You know what? I can't complain. These new obstacles, they're getting the competitors that I suspected they would, and I'm cool with that.
This is what we wanted, right? We were hoping for a harder Vegas course, and we definitely got it.
Yep. But somebody that is still consistent, let's talk about him.
Drew Dreschel. Probably and he got all kinds of love this episode. He got some great segments where we get to see all the other ninjas talking about how awesome he is. He's 6 years now. You can't say enough about him. Like, he is a real life ninja. Like, what else can you say about him?
So here's a fact for everybody. Ever since he joins Levi Muenberg as the second person that made it the furthest in both Sasuke and American Ninja Warrior in the same year. How crazy is that?
That is pretty awesome. And he beat the insane, not to skip ahead too much in this episode, but they put up these ultimate cliffhangers in both of them that nobody could beat except him in both of them.
Oh yeah, we're going to get to those cliffhangers in a sec. But this guy, he is the most well-built with all the competitors that are left, since both Jeff and Isaac are out of the whole show. I feel like Drew Dreschel and Adam Arnold are the 2 people, when you just think of the physical gifts, are prime to completing all the stages. Maybe Josh Levin, if he gets a little bit more maturity under his belt, or experience, not maturity, but experience. But I think these 2 guys are primed to go all the way. And I think Drew Dreschel, just with his training and how consistently good he is every single year, this is the guy, man. He's my top pick now that Jeff Britton's out of it. I thoroughly think he's going to shine in Sasuke and American Ninja Warrior next year.
Do you think he could beat both next year? How cool would it be to beat both? Like, one or the other? Which one do you think he's got a better chance of doing next year, I guess?
Ooh, I'd say American Ninja Warrior, because I still think the crazy or whatever cliffhanger they have in Sasuke to the vertical limit is so incredibly, in terms of all the obstacles that we've seen in both shows. And I'm sorry for going off tangent, guys, but I think that combination is the hardest that we've seen. And I just don't know if anybody's capable of completing that.
Good point. Yeah, if they keep that the same, it could definitely, that could be the downfall. Yeah, so looking at Drew's run, he went down at the down up salmon ladder backwards. Like, that was a really interesting technique. You kind of get the impression maybe he's done this a few times before.
Yeah, just a few, right?
Yeah.
Remember, that downward descent has been introduced in Sasuke before, so he's trained it because he does Sasuke training. So I think that's actually played a huge part in how well he did this year.
Yeah, and this would have been filmed only like a month after his Sasuke run, too.
Good point.
So I'll leave. I already touched on his grip, no grip on the Wave Runner. But he was going... I would have been freaking out at the TV if I hadn't seen Stage 3 first, because he was going so slow
I was freaking out.
through the wall flips. Like, what was he thinking? Oh my God, I can't believe he just barely made that.
I was screaming at my TV. I'm sure he was comfortable and knew what was going on, but if he were to fail by a millisecond, I would have thrown, I don't know, something at my TV, because I am like, dude, like... It's not like you got 20 seconds. Like, the buzzer is like going off. Like, you need to haul butt, man. He barely made it, but he just made everybody have a little mini heart attack. But he was chill about it. One thing that impressed me though is how he attacked the double wedge. As we hinted to last week, this was his first time on it, and he went through it perfectly. He really, if you watch how he does it. Unlike most competitors where they kind of throw themselves into it and just hope for the best and try to just use their athletic strengths to do it, he really goes a very technical way of doing it. Keeps his elbows completely bent and goes very slow and checks both sides all the time. He's very, very technical going through that wedge. And even though it takes a little bit more time, he was very careful in doing it. And that's why I always say he's good when it comes to new obstacles.
Yeah, I think he was both of our top picks for this season, with everything being new and refreshed. He definitely was the guy to watch, and proved it. He just needs to, move a little faster when the clock's ticking down.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And after him, we had Brian Arnold. I was really surprised that he hadn't been to Stage 3 when I realized he hadn't been there since he had been there 3 years ago. I really thought he had been. But he's made it to Stage 2 the last 2 years, and then he ended up going out on the wedge. The left side just got a little ahead of him. So Brian had a good season. Mm-hmm. He just didn't quite make it back to Stage 3 again.
It was hard to watch because Brian looked absolutely phenomenal right before he fell on the wedge. You could tell this guy has been training, and he was in peak shape. Like, he was beast moding this course like no other. Not even Drew Dressel was doing it as well as Brian Arnold. But that new obstacle, the wedge, really got him. And I'm curious how he's going to come and attack all the new obstacles next year. I have a feeling they're going to keep, the producers are going to keep a lot of the newer introduced obstacles next season. So I think all of the Wolfpack are going to have a good chance of training for these new obstacles. And as we've seen, when the Wolfpack has a chance to train on obstacles and they're familiar with them, they do very, very well. So definitely keep an eye out for him next year. I think he's going to do quite amazing.
Yeah, it's thankfully we'll get to see him before then too, right? We'll get to see him on Team Ninja Warrior and see how they did. See if he was able to defend his title on there.
Yeah.
So he mentions how difficult it is to kind of... He got to see his teammate NJF complete the whole thing, so he knows it's possible. He knows he's at that level, and it must be just a kick in the pants to miss it again this season. But I mean, he's got the heart, and he trains so hard. I can't wait to see him make another attempt.
Yeah, he's another guy where I'm really glad that Team Ninja Warrior is also introduced for the kind of like the off season of American Ninja Warrior. It's really going to give him a lot of motivation to keep training, because I feel like some of these competitors where they just devote their entire lives to it can really get emotionally drained if they don't do particularly well, right? So I think this is a really good chance for him to feel some confidence or something to train for going in.
Cool. After him, we had Thomas Stillings, the genie, who ended up falling on the double salmon ladder, unfortunately. He tried to skip a rung too many, and he just got tripped up, unfortunately.
Man, who saw that coming? I thought he was just going to fly through that that salmon ladder. That's brutal, man.
Yeah, he looked really solid to that point. Like, I don't think he struggled very much on the giant ring swing, did he?
No, he did it easily.
Yeah.
I think this was kind of the reason I chose Daniel Gill over Thomas Stillings. I think Daniel Gill just had a little bit more experience, and I don't know. It's hard because it's not really a rookie mistake that he did, but I felt like he got really... I think he got a little too excited going up that.
Yeah, it could be. Speaking of a little overexcited, we had Jake Murray next, who almost fell on the butterfly wall from just getting overly anxious to jump and almost took a stupid spill there, but thankfully recovered. But he did fall in the transition of the wedge. I was hoping he'd make it through. I wonder what he had up his sleeve for his finish that time.
I don't know, banana? I don't know.
Maybe he did the cheeseburger this time.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I really like this guy because he gets a different element from a lot of the other competitors where he is a free runner, and the second and third stage really doesn't adhere to his strengths, right? Siege 1 is prime for somebody like him, but Siege 2 and 3 really aren't, and it's always interesting watching somebody like him who's kind of more of like my body type rather than like, some muscled up, right prime for stage 2 and 3 guy. And he did really, really well, or admirably well for how far he got. So I always root for people like him.
Yeah, and we'll get to see if he was able to defend his Team Ninja Warrior title as well. So.
Oh, that's right. He's on the same team, right? Huh?
Yeah, he's on Party Time.
Wow, what a strong team. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. We slept on that team last year. We won't be this year.
No, we will not.
After him, we had Nicholas Coolidge, who was fast-forwarded for some crazy reason.
Okay, what did this guy do?
Ended up falling on the Wave Runner.
Like we have to do bets of, like, what did this guy do? He must have, like, just... Well, I'm not going to get into that, but he must have thoroughly angered somebody because this guy has gotten the shaft the entire season, and he's done so well. Like, if you were to ask somebody, I have a feeling half the damn audience didn't even know he was on the season. Because I don't think they gave him one single instance of a full run or let alone like a vignette for him, right? They've just completely ignored him. I don't know what's going on.
They showed him fast. I don't think they showed his qualifying run. If they did, it was a fast forward. They definitely fast forwarded him falling on the wedge. They didn't show his stage 1 run. And they fast forwarded this, or they fast forwarded both probably. I don't know. I really don't get it. Like, how entertaining does somebody have to be? Like, he does so well. He was so good last season. I'm just hoping he crushes it next year so they can't ignore him.
I don't understand it, man. I really don't. Nicholas Coolidge, I'm telling you, man. Get that cocoa butter, put it on your abs, get some horses behind you. Do what you need to do, man.
He's got the abs. Maybe it's the shirt removal. Like, he starts with it off, so I think maybe that's the problem. He's got to take the shirt off.
Tease the audience, right?
To get the attention.
Tease the ladies.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the men. I don't judge.
Next was Daniel Gill, our unofficial Rookie of the Year last year, who we've been singing his praises for so long, and he proved why we've been doing that. Him and Drew, like, both of us never stopped talking about them, so I feel justified, like we were right all this time.
That's right. Not only did he do well, he looked so flawless. Like, he made it look so easy.
Yeah, the only part he had like a crooked wedge transition, but other than that, it was like everything was
He was
He
smart,
just did this
though.
long lache off the
He
wedge.
saw that crookedness, and he's like, oh, I'm not moving this anymore. Like, let me get the heck off this thing.
Time to bail. But yeah, the former NBA coach calling him like an elite athlete, like comparing him to like the best of the NBA. Like, that's really cool. That's some pretty high praise.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
So he did awesome. He made it through, one of the only two to actually do it. And then we get to see Jessie Graf's run. Oh, man, she did great, but I was just hoping for more. Like, I didn't really hold out too much hope because I feel like they would have teased it out more. The lack of... I mean, they teased it a lot in this episode, don't get me wrong. But from week to week, I really felt like they would have been like, can she do stage 2 more than if she had actually done
we
it.
got literally a second of her in the preview where everybody else got like, a whole lot more flashes of how far they went. And for Jessie Graf, I'm like, I don't know how far she's getting because we just see kind of like a flash second of her swinging, and that's it. But she actually went farther than I was. Like, I actually was really impressed by her. She did great, and it was just such a great view just see a woman doing stage 2. Like, it's one thing for like the American audience to see it, but imagine the international audience. This is really, really new to the entire sport, and what a great representative to have it. Have her be the first woman to do a stage 2. It was really cool. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. And I'm not talking about like Kunoichi or whatever it's called. I'm talking about like Prime, Sasuke, American Ninja Warrior, all that. I'm pretty sure she might be the first woman to go to stage 2.
No, I just watched actually like a top 6 women of ANW. There was all the way back in, oh boy, here we go. Not ANW, sorry. Second season of Sasuke, I believe it was. There was someone, it was a much easier course back then. But she did actually beat it long before, like way before ANW even existed.
Well, I don't really watch the first 10 seasons of Sasuke because kind of skippable.
We will now. We've got them all, they just aired. We'll have some off season. Maybe we'll go back and take a look. But yeah, she beat it. She did not do well in stage 2. From what I could see. Shout out to Universal Tuber. Has a great channel. I was checking out some of his videos.
Okay, well, moving on. Let's not get too far into this. But it's cool that, there is some precedence. But overall, from the past, decade or so, I definitely say she's definitely somebody that stands out. And I'm really excited for her. And, man, I really want to see Jessie Graf in Sasuke next year. I really want to see that happen.
Oh, that would be cool. I was actually... You know what her run made me realize, though, is looking at the rest of stage 2, there is no limit to her, to what she can do. I really would have had no problem believing she could have completed stage 2.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you gave her a second shot, she could do that.
Easily. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think she's really shown that there is no limits, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and I think we'll see all of the women raise the bar up next season. We'll see even more. Even that we had a record. The season was really... There was a great article on ANW Nation about it, that this was the season for the women to really show what they can do. And just as a whole, they did so much better. We had, 4 finishers and 4 women qualify for finals. We had 3 qualify for Vegas. Just overall, just a fantastic season.
Mm-hmm. I thoroughly think Team Ninja Warrior is where a lot of the female competitors are really going to shine. So keep an eye out for that, guys. Again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some of those matchups again. So excited for Team Ninja Warrior to see, are we going to get to see some of these epic matchups that we want to see? Are we going to see Jessie go head-to-head against Megan? That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into Stage 3, man. What'd you overall... should we go obstacle by obstacle and previewing it, or overall course? What do you think?
Well, first thing I want to mention is... This is where they gave the stat of Drew being only the second person to be to stage 3 for the second time. And Daniel is the youngest to ever make it to stage 3, so that's cool. We've got a long road ahead for Daniel to see him with these attempts, so that's great. Obstacle by obstacle, I don't know. Yeah, we'll list them off here. So the key lock hang, pretty similar to circuit board or whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with it.
It was all right. Floating boards, they changed them so they're angled at the bottom. That was a good change, I think. That was a pretty logical change.
Yeah, it's always a good obstacle. I like it.
Ultimate cliffhanger, they stepped it up with the transition back and forth. I thought another great change. I really like this course.
I like the Ultimate Cliffhanger a lot. Which one do you think's better, the ANW one or the Sasuke one?
Oh, the Sasuke one.
Yeah, I was about to say.
One.
For people that haven't watched it, the Sasuke one, during the second flip back, right, rather than just a stationary wall, the wall lifts up and down. It's kind of crazy. But I was just curious what your thoughts were on that one.
Yeah, that's the craziest obstacle I've ever seen. So that, yeah, definitely that won me over for sure. Okay. Curved body prop, I thought was impossible. I really didn't see how anyone could do that after everything else.
I just thought it was incredibly creative. I absolutely adore that obstacle. The descent, how close, the proximity to the water that you get, and then you have to go this crazy ascent. I think they said 10 feet. Like, that is a really, really cool obstacle. And not only is it long, but you really have to use different parts of your body, including your core. And I think that's just an absolute core blaster. I love that obstacle so incredibly much.
So then from there, they were supposed to go to the hang climb, standard.
There's no rest between those two obstacles, right?
No, there's not.
Ooh, brutal, man.
Yeah. And then to the walking bar, which is another crazy hard obstacle, which I don't know. That seems like it would. Trying to do a walking bar and then the flying bar just seems like the end of that course is just a monster.
So it's very clear that first of all, they don't want anybody ever winning the show again. but the second thing is that it's a clear big test on your grip strength and your forearms. All of these obstacles in some part deal with just absolutely draining your forearm strength and your grip strength. So I think those final two obstacles, where it's really just complete jolts and blasts of holding on, I think it really makes a good test of your skill and your sheer will. And those flying bars, man, though, there's nothing worse than that in terms of putting all that force on your fingertips. So I really like how all of the obstacles kind of build on one another and accentuate the difficulty more and more.
I feel like, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the curved body prop is a totally different set of skills, a different muscle group, right? It seems like that is designed to take out half the field and the rest of it is to take out the other.
Yeah, basically, not only are you using your core and your legs, but the main part is that you're using kind of a reverse grip of your forearm, and it kind of blasts the inner part of your forearm where it will really, really build up the lactic acid very, very quickly. So I think while it uses different parts, it also accentuates the pain in your forearms, and that's what I really like.
Cool. So they get a little segment on Drew at this point where he says, I'm not the biggest, strongest, I'm not a rock climber, this is all I do, which I thought was a really good testament to him just being the quintessential Ninja Warrior athlete. Like, there's really nobody that personifies it quite the way that he does.
Yeah, I'm going to get into this a little bit after the entire recap, but just remember what he said, because I think it says a huge statement to the evolution of this sport, but I'll get into that later.
Okay, we'll circle back to that. But he started doing it, I couldn't believe he did the cliffhanger. Like, I was immediately floored. And this was, at least for this part, I was fresh. I watched, this is the part I got to see live in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay.
Nice.
I thought that body prop, though, I thought that would take him out, and he made it through that. And then it's a silly mistake, but in a weird way, even though I don't do these things, it's almost exactly the kind of mistake I would see myself making, where I have a plan, I'm all ready to execute it, and then I just go, oh, wait, that looks easier, and just grab the wrong hold. Like, it's just such an easy mistake to make.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, I'm going to start rock climbing soon, but I haven't done it yet. I'm really curious if you can see that kind of thing, or if you kind of just have to guesstimate it. Like, I'm sure you can feel around for it or get a sensibility of how they're positioned, but I'm really curious if he was actually even able to see if it had a finger hole or a foothold. With that said, it was really hard to watch because he got through such devastatingly difficult obstacles and fell on the smallest little mistake, but Once again, these are the types of things that I actually like about obstacle course racing. It's not the physical aspects, it's the mental aspects. And this was a mental mistake that he made rather than a physical one. So it was really cool to see. It's tough, man, because you really want to see how far he can go, but them's the breaks, man.
Yeah, when he came back from commercial, they showed him crying, and I kind of thought that was stupid, like leave him alone, basically. But
I liked it.
They had to, because he was all teared up watching Daniel run. You'd wonder what was going on, like why was he tearing up. So it did. I like the positivity he had before that, but then to see that it did affect him, that it did bother him too, was good in the end to know that how much he cares about doing well on it.
Not just that, there are certain memorable aspects about competitors, right? And if there's one thing that I think is going to win over fans more than anything else, it's when you show the true, genuine emotion, and just how much you love the sport and how much it means to you. And seeing that just emotional drain and just the drama of what he's going through, and the heartbreak that he had to deal with, I think he won over a lot of fans from that. And I think if there's one thing that's even going to be more memorable than his run, it's how he handled himself after the run. He was very gracious in it, but then when he had a moment to himself, they showed just how much it affected him. It was in many ways absolutely beautiful, right? And it's one of those rare moments where you get to kind of see beyond the veil of the athletes.
Nicely put. So then we got to watch Daniel Gill do his run. I was kind of curious how far he would get if he was going to actually beat how Drew did. And he did this long dismount on the key lock hang, which saved him some.
Weird way of how he was handling it too. I was getting really nervous of he kind of held the sides of him rather than the middle, but it worked out for him.
Yeah, that was really strange. I don't know why you would do that, but like you said, it did work out. And he was making pretty good time. He ended up falling on the ultimate cliffhanger, though, on the transition, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Well, for the key lock hang, I know why. It's because it wouldn't drain your fingertips. It's more about your palm strength. So I understand why he did it, but it could have gone really wrong for him. He had to be pitch perfect or absolutely perfect doing that. But yeah, that ultimate cliffhanger, I thought he would be able to get past it just because he has trained on it. We've seen him training on it. But it's one of those types of obstacles where you really don't know what you're in for until you're doing it on the show. Because the way they have their cliffhanger, it is elevated more, so gravity is a little bit different. And from what I understand, they changed the length of the grips, the holdings. I don't know what you call them, but whatever those are, I think they changed the length. I remember somebody referencing that the length was changed a little bit. So that might have got to him a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think the depth of the ledges was less than before, so it was only a 1-inch ledge.
There you go.
From the grip. Yeah, but he did awesome. Really excited to see him do stand out this way this season. Really, we both had a lot of high hopes for him, and he proved us right.
Yeah, he delivered. One thing that I wanted to get into now that the show's over and we saw the final two athletes, one thing that I really liked seeing about these two, the two men that made it the furthest and made it to stage 3, is we've seen kind of a shifting evolution, especially after Isaac Caldiero won the entire show, and Jeff Britton, but you know what I mean. In the previous seasons, at the beginning of all of American Ninja Warrior, maybe the first 4 seasons, we saw this huge emphasis on free running. And then in the past few seasons, we saw a huge emphasis switch over to rock climbing and grip strength and everything. And I think right now the show is kind of in a middle ground, right, where they're trying to figure out, they're more based on what's a really hard obstacle for people to do. But in terms of the athletes that are going the furthest and that are doing extremely well, we're getting a very good middle ground of athletes that, both Daniel Gill and Drew Drechsel, Drew Drechsel to a point started out as kind of a free runner, right? A quasi free runner, but never professional, super high up level like Levi Muhlenberg or any of those, right? He was just a person that trained obstacle course racing. He trained Ninja Warrior. And Daniel Gill does the same. Even though he has a quasi background in somewhat gymnastics and some other things, his main thing right now is Ninja Warrior. And I think we're going to see a whole lot more of the upcoming generation of people that have seen American Ninja Warrior pretty much their entire teen years and have trained from the get-go for this sport. And they're going to have strengths in all different parts of the game. It's kind of like how, for people that watch MMA, beginning of MMA, everybody had their own specialty and got by it. But now, if you really want to excel in it, you kind of have a mix of everything. And I think that's where the show's very much transitioning to. You're going to see a whole lot more people that excel all the way. They're people that have strengths in everything. And I think that's really, really cool and really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I like that comparison. I think the MMA comparison makes a lot of sense, where you can't just focus on one area. You have to be good all around. And it's become its own sport in its own right with its own skill set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In many ways, I guess you can call it MOCR or something like that, right? Mixed obstacle course or whatever you want to call it. I guess ANW is the best way to describe it, right?
Yeah, and until you pointed out, I hadn't noticed that the two guys that I think you could call above most, ninja athletes, not specifically one skill set or another, that are the two that were left standing. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I think like Brian Arnold and Isaac Caldiero are the, I forget the term, but they're the outliers, right? But when you look at most of the top people from the sport, the Jeff Brins, the Joe Moravskis, the Joe Dreschels, Daniel Gills, they all don't have one clear like thing that they do. They're just good at American Ninja Warrior. And I think for many aspects, just coming into the sport free of everything and just learning like both free running aspects and upper body aspects at the same time can really help you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the digital exclusives. The last ones we'll have to do until next year. I don't know if they'll bring it back. I'm guessing they probably will. It's kind of cute.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I didn't mind them.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they could probably ditch. They could probably ditch crashing the course.
I was about to say the crashing the courses this week was kind of lame.
Yeah, a little bit. So crashing the course. Let's talk about that first. There's not a whole lot to say. I had a lot of hopes for it actually, but and we learned a little bit about the body prop, which we already talked about. We learned that they didn't change stage 4, which I was really surprised about actually.
I don't get it.
I mean, it wasn't needed, but still.
Stage 4, though, it's supposed to be the hardest one, and I don't know, a rope climb? Like, there's many things you can do to add to that. You can have different layers to that ascent that can make it not only visually exciting, but just tougher in general, right? Like, a rope climb, I understand it zaps your arms, but you can't just have the show completely about your upper body. I mean, we just talked about how everybody's using different body parts and, you need all parts of the game. But I think the Stage 4 is the biggest outlier of they're kind of stuck in the past and they might need to revitalize it. I think they need to look at Sasuke and a lot of the international competitions and look at their Stage 4s. And just look at what they're doing alone with the qualifiers, right? Like, imagine an invisible ladder or a spider climb or something during the first half of that, and then get to the rope climb. Something.
Series of ladders and have a monkey throwing barrels down or something. I don't know. Something different.
That'd be cool. But yeah, there's got to be something happening there. A rope climb, it's just kind of lame, honestly.
So moving on, we actually had a 24x4 with Jesse Graff, which I had been wondering where it was all along. And of course, we get it in the finale, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we got to see Maggie Thorne a lot during this whole week, by the way. Shout out to Maggie Thorne. She's pretty awesome. She's a great Spartan racer.
Yeah, and she was also Jesse's college roommate. They had Michelle Warnke there with her, and they were drinking smoothies. And they gave a little recipe for like apple, orange, banana, kale, spinach, aloe vera, and cayenne pepper. That does not sound good.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's all them. Have fun with that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. A lot of feature. Actually, Samo was featured quite a bit through the video too, which was cool.
Yeah, we love Samo so much.
I can't even spit it out. She takes dark chocolate espresso beans with her? Like, I really did not see that coming at all. Like, that seemed like the last thing I would have expected her to take with her.
I guess. I don't.
That sounds incredibly unhealthy. Like, she seemed like she would be all health food all the time. Like, really? Like, I suppose dark chocolate's not that bad for you.
Dark chocolate's healthy.
Yeah, I suppose.
Espresso beans, I don't know enough about that kind of stuff. I don't really drink caffeine, guys. So
it'd be like, well, if she said she was taking a fistful of candy with her, I would have been just as surprised, I guess.
Yeah.
One thing I hadn't considered is doing the hero shots and the B-roll and the park and stuff. That actually, takes away some of the time they have to prepare and stuff that they got to go shoot all that. I guess I always pictured it happening after everything was said and done, not the same day that they were going to be competing.
Good point. I don't know. I never really thought about it, but yeah. I can definitely see for the newer competitors, it's got to have to be afterwards, right? Like, oh, you actually did well. Let's get some B-roll on you.
Yeah.
But I feel like somebody like Jesse Graff or somebody that they know is, going to be prime time, I think they might just get the B-roll beforehand. So I think it's relative, I guess.
Yeah, it also matters probably which day they were doing. They seem to imply that it was between stage 1 and stage 2, but it's hard to say for sure when all this was taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, she was flying in for part of it, so obviously it was the day before. There was so much to this. She was doing acro yoga with Nicholas Coolidge, who they don't even give him a shout out. They don't even mention his name. So one more dig at him.
I'm telling you, man. He did something. I'm going to get down to the bottom of this. I'm going to do some detective work.
I don't know. There's so many little cameos through this whole video. They were busing to the course with all the ninjas. Like, I wonder how far... What hotel? I keep wondering. I'm in the industry, right? So I'm looking for signage or something in the hotel rooms, trying to figure out what hotel they were all put up at. Just curious.
I don't know. That's all you, bro.
I assumed it was Mandalay Bay all this time, but I know what the rooms look like there, and that wasn't them. So I'm just curious then where the heck they were at. I love that when she's like studying the course and she's kind of going through it, and we've got the ninjas. The guys are mimicking her behind her. Thomas, Grant, and Jake are all back there doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Overall, I loved that video. I thought it was a really good representation of what they were shooting for, what they wanted from these 24x4s, to give you an idea of their personalities and what they do to prepare. I just overall thought it was great.
Yeah, it was fun. I definitely think the 24x4 are the stronger series rather than Crashing the Course, which is interesting because they've been promoting Crashing the Course more. But if there's one holdover that I hope they bring over next season, it's 24x4. They can get rid of that Crashing the Course.
Yeah, and I think they need to give them a little more direction because some of them were way stronger than others, right?
Oh, yeah.
So some of them were really entertaining and others were just... But if you don't know what they're looking for, like some people just filmed a couple of quick things, I think, and there was just nothing to show. Mm-hmm. Anyway, moving on. We have some news of Team Ninja Warrior. Actually, the College Madness is going to be showing in November, which is really cool. We got some news about that already.
And no Dago representation. Just a shame.
So yeah, they did announce the team, so they're going to be featuring a lot of rivalries. We can run through them real quick here, just in case anybody hasn't seen the list yet. So listen for your college of choice. We are going to have UCLA versus USC. Florida versus Georgia. TCU versus... What is TCU? TCU versus Houston. Michigan versus the Ohio State University. Wisconsin versus Maryland. Stanford versus Colorado. Oklahoma versus Texas A&M. And University of Connecticut versus MIT. So lots of big name schools.
Of all the colleges in California, they choose those two. Not UCSD, not like San Francisco State. Just, I don't get it. Whatever. Have fun, guys. They missed out. They could have had some San Diego representation. We would have just destroyed everything. But no. Whatevs.
Anyway, so we get to see these big rivalries. I know you'll be rooting against now, at least.
Well, yeah.
We'll have to figure out some method of choosing. I'm not familiar with these universities at all. Or colleges. I don't actually...
I mean, it doesn't matter. I think what matters is what the teams are going to be, right? Like this, for all the collegeness, it's really about the athletes. I mean, you try to get some football players on this. It's not going to end well. So we'll see who the competitors are.
Yeah, and they do have a big list of all the competitors. So what we'll do, for those that were with us last year, we actually ran down the teams for Team Ninja Warrior. We're going to try to do something similar for this. I don't know how much we'll be able to find out about the college athletes. Maybe we'll reach out and try to get some idea. If you know anything about them, we definitely appreciate the information, and we'll try to time it so that we can do the big lead up to Team Ninja Warrior, which premieres November 22nd on Esquire.
2 months away, guys. Not far.
Yeah. So it's 16 teams, 3 athletes each, very similar format to what we saw before. But this year, Casey Catanzaro is going to be the sideline reporter.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's great. But yeah, so more to come on that over the coming weeks now that we are done with the main season of American Ninja Warrior. One other thing I wanted to bring up was there was Grant McCartney, who was really pushing, and his fans were pushing to get him on to the Ellen Show so he could dance with her. I didn't actually get to see the show, but they did have a little feature of Katie Ledecky, who was the main guest for that episode, I'm guessing. The Olympic swimmer who did it fantastic for Team USA this year. They had a little segment where she was competing against Grant in this ridiculous like cross between soccer and darts, and it's really cute. It's really funny. Like, Grant just steals the show. It doesn't matter. You get Ellen DeGeneres there, like really funny lady with her own show, and Katie Ledecky, great athlete, and Grant's still like dancing around and just totally made it entertaining. They had this big shootout, and I'm going to link it in the show notes anyway. It's really funny.
Awesome.
So that is it for the season. We are done. That is it for the episode 2. Overall, I thought the 8th season was pretty much what we expected. It was way harder. We had tons of great veterans who failed early. It was lots of new obstacles. It was a season of women. It was everything we hoped it would be. I really can't say enough good about the season. I thought it was fantastic, and I can't wait to see next. It has been renewed. It was announced. We will have an ANW9.
Yeah, like it wasn't going to be renewed. The show's killing it in the ratings.
It's the best season they've ever had.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought it was an incredibly strong season. I think, Rich, you summed it up perfectly. I mean, everything was so on point this season. We really got just just women just absolutely tearing the course down and just making it their own. And I really think a lot of people or a lot of families, the show's very much transitioned to just a male-oriented sport. And that's not even fair, but in terms of like the main fan base, right? It's coming from a male audience dominated fan audience to very family oriented, and I think that's the right way that this type of sport should go. And yeah, they've pulled back on the ridiculous video montages. There's still some room for improvement, but it's not absolutely just the worst like it has been the past few seasons. I think they've thoroughly improved. I think they've listened to a lot of viewer feedback, and yeah, really impressed with this season. And I look forward to Team Ninja Warrior and if they make some changes to that as well.
Yeah, I'm guessing with the college edition coming in November, we can probably expect the main one to happen in January again, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I think the college edition will give us a good feel for what changes they've implemented.
Yeah, for sure, because it was filmed afterwards, so they would probably use the same formatting.
All right, guys, that's the end of the 8th season of American Ninja Warrior, but it's not the end of this podcast. Don't you go, guys. We're still going to be here every single week breaking down National Ninja League, all the the local competitions, and we're going to be previewing Team Ninja Warrior, and we're going to be covering a lot of the older seasons of Sasuke, American Ninja Warrior, and maybe some other little specials on the side. We'll see. If you have any requests, please let us know. Hit us up. And yeah, Rich, I'm really excited for this off season. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll be going back to doing the videos of the week. And for those that weren't with us in the off season before, it was a great preview for this season. We knew some of these names that you just learned from the season. We knew them ahead of time. It was great to get to know them from that, especially from Team Ninja Warrior. It was fantastic to get to see a bunch of new women climb the warped wall. So I really, even if you don't listen to us, you need to check out Team Ninja Warrior on Esquire when it comes back on. A fantastic show. Lots of great things to talk about. We'll be here every week. And if you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on ninjapodcast.com. You can email us at rich@ninjapodcast.com. We are on Twitter and Instagram as Ninja Podcast. And Bijan, how do they reach out directly to you?
Hit me up at Bijan151. That's Bijan 151 on Twitter and Instagram. And don't worry, guys. Episodes are going to be a lot shorter during the off season.
Yeah, we're going to let this one run a little long because it is the finale. There was so much to talk about. So thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Peace, y'all.